Hi everybody. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to look at how yesterday, which was the 23rd of October, unfolded on the USE minis. Particularly as it was quite a hard day. If we look at the ES here, you can see that we actually gapped down. We made an inside gap down. The market then declined a little bit lower, then basically chopped sideways for the rest of the day. STF was black stroke red, so trend was flat to down. NQ, oops, just clear that off, similar kind of thing. We had a decline down and then a sort of chop sideways or gentle rally back up. YM, pretty similar as well. Gap down and then chopping sideways. But I wanted to particularly look at yesterday because it was a hard day. Why do I say it was a hard day? Well, because if we look at the 15-minute charts, in our trading webinar yesterday we were looking at this, and in particular how the market went down. It got to this 15-minute DP and it was just basically chopping around here. It had gone a little bit below it, come back up again, and was basically moving sideways and was quite difficult. NQ had gone a little bit beyond its DP, which I put on there. See, it went a little bit beyond it, so it looked, if anything, the trend was slightly down. And the YM, we did actually have a TS4 buy set up at the low of the day there on the 15-minute chart, but as you can see, these were very wide range bars. So overall it was actually quite a confusing day. Now it's important to understand that the markets will give you confusing days. There will be periods when the market is not clear or the picture's not clear. We've had some very good trades recently on the USE minis, so it's no surprise at all that we have a period when it's a little bit less obvious, if you like. I call this the cyclical nature of trading, where the patterns and the setups go through periods of good trades, go through periods of bad trades, i.e. losing trades, but these are kept small at -1R, and then goes through periods when it's quiet or the picture is unclear. So what could you have done yesterday? Well, the only thing I saw yesterday, and I should have spotted this in the training webinar yesterday, was I should have seen the volume and this high volume VSA spike, if I zoom in a bit here, coming in at yesterday's low. Remember, we look at these when a bar makes a move through an important pivot. So if I put the low tag on there, you can see this was the initial decline down, here was the low, the market came back up, it then made a new low, but this high volume VSA bar indicated something was going on. In other words, most amateur traders would look at this and say, oh, a break to new lows on high volume, therefore I want to go short. And as you can see, that would have meant they'd be selling the low of the day, which is not a good place to be in. But at MTPredictor, we know that we have our DP. If I place that on for this bar here, you can see that was out there in advance. This gives us an area of where the market is going to make a decision. In this case, it was a decision to reverse, so the DP was support. Now what we do in our particular VSA setup in MTPredictor, we look at our high volume VSA bar, which was this bar here that made a gap or a breakdown through the lows. If I zoom in a bit, we then look to the next bar to then get a reversal. If it makes a reversal like it did here, we knew that this high volume on this bar here was not selling, it was actually buying. And in this case, all the buying managed to do was to stop the decline earlier in the day. Normally, for a trade off this, we go back to the prior pivot here, and then we take a risk reward trade in and around the blue buy bar. But in this case there was only a 1.7R profit. But in fact, look where that profit target was. That profit target was right at that high there, just before the close on the day. So what a brilliant place to be actually buying at pretty much the low of the day and selling at pretty much the high of the day. But I wouldn't have suggested this as a trade because the risk reward was only 1.7R. We normally like to have trades of at least 2R to make it worthwhile taking the trade. So although this nailed the low of the day, it wouldn't be a tradable setup. However, what I was going on to say now is that because you'd spotted this and actually said, well, this might well be an important low coming in, we had an initial rally up, we then had initial decline down here into a TS1 buy setup. Now if we analyze this, at the first target, you can see here there was a potential 2.5R profit, which is greater than our 2R. So if you'd had thought that this was an interesting low and you wanted to get long now, then this would have been an opportunity to actually have a long trade here. The only cravat to this is it was on a red STF, so this would only be applicable to the more advanced traders among you. If you had got into this buy setup and the market went up, the first target there would have been a good place to look to bank your profits because the STF was weak. But also, if I zoom in and I clear all this lot off, I'll put the DP on we had earlier, which is from that high pivot there, and there we have exactly the opposite coming in with our volume. In other words, this bar here was going above the prior pivot. If I put a high tag on here, you'll see what I mean. There's the high level there at 41.75. So this bar came through that level. It had a VSA set up as well, indication on our volume indicator here. The next bar then reversed back down with a red sell bar, which was at the 14.45 bar. So that indicated that any buying that had come through here was now probably reversing into selling, and that this rally was stopping. So if you were long here and you perhaps wanted to try and anticipate this was going to go any higher, then at the very least put your stop one tick below that bar's low, the 14.45 bar low. So that would probably increase your profit to 2.5 R, so not very much indeed. But the point being is that this VSA setup indicated that the rally was to all intents and purposes over. So it was a good this has been a good exercise or a good example on how we teach more advanced techniques at MTPredictor. We don't just have automatic setups that are used just like this in isolation. We teach about how the volume works on bars like this, so you can get indications that the market's making reversal, and also when you're in trades to get an indication that the actual trend is over as well. So I think yesterday was quite a hard day, and this is what we were saying in yesterday's trading webinar. But if you hadn't spotted this VSA reversal here and said, well, okay, that now looks like we are possibly going to have some movement to the upside, then this TS1 long trade setup here would have been a good one for you to consider, but only into the high here where this VSA setup was then reversing as well. But if you had taken that, well, that was a potential 2.5 R profit, so it would have been a very good trade considering it was a hard day yesterday. So I think it's been a good day to do a video, and it's very important to understand that hard days do unfold. It's all too easy for gurus and software vendors to only do examples on easy days when there's big profits. So that's why I thought it was important to do a video today to show you not only some of the more advanced techniques that we can use in the MTPredictor software program, but also to show them on a day that was actually quite hard work, and you had to be quite experienced to be able to undercover some trades.